All right. Have everything set up. I'm going to go through my presentation. I should have some time at the end to answer any questions. So if you have any questions, put it in the chat and I'll do my best to answer them at the end. Cool. So hello, everyone. Welcome to the session. I'm going to be talking about orchestrating API programs with Postman. I'll delve into kind of what that means a bit, but just a quick intro. My name's Ian. I'm a customer success engineer here at Postman. You can see my Twitter handle over there. Yeah, I'm based out in New York, so it's really chilly out here. Currently, if anyone else in the Northeast experienced the blizzard the last few days, it's pretty crazy. But yeah, I've been working with APIs for a little over 5 years now, which is crazy. I got into this industry like very early on, and yeah, I really love working with them. So I'm excited to have this talk today. Just a quick background. The audience for this is meant generally for like any admins or any admins who are administering Postman team, but they also may be like developers who are also adminning the team. So that's kind of the audience for this presentation. And then the goal is to kind of making sure you guys are using these best practices in Postman that I'm going to go over today. Cool. So quick little agenda. First, we'll talk about the importance of orchestrating or organizing your APIs into a cohesive ecosystem. Then we'll talk about how Postman can help you achieve that and some of the best practices in that. And I'll kind of show that and show some of those features in Postman and then give out some example scenarios. And then at the end, we'll do a quick Q&A. Cool. So why orchestrate your API program? In this day and age, APIs are abundant within each company. There are internal microservices, external and internal APIs that are being used in conjunction with each other. It can be difficult to test and visualize how to integrate different APIs and microservices, which leads to things getting outdated, APIs outdated, documentation getting outdated, and having all these resources very unorganized are just a lot of pain points that really hinder your API development and your API program in general. And it really breaks down to two different kinds of ways your team will interact with these APIs. First, you guys are going to be an API producer, so you need a way to maintain and organize all these different APIs that you have. And then also, you have a lot of integrations with other APIs probably. So you're probably going to be also an API consumer. You need to know how these different API services work in conjunction with your own API, right? A lot of integration, you're going to do a lot of testing. So managing all these together can be quite complex as you scale up your applications and add more endpoints, services. So it's important to understand how to govern and orchestrate them before it gets too messy. So how can Postman help? Postman has some really great features that help you probably wrangle in all the APIs that your team or organization uses. We have an API Builder feature that really helps you do that. Manages all these API resources, such as your environments, your tests, and different versions that your team has. You can maintain multiple versions of the API. And then the key thing here is also managing ownership and permissions within Postman to ensure seamless collaboration within the organization and really have that single source of truth of who owns what and where to find all the details for that API. So for some of you may be more experienced Postman users, how many times have you opened up Postman and you are listed with a bunch of collections, but you're not sure which workspace to go to or which collection is for what, and just in general, as a retailer, who's actually maintaining these collections? And if you don't have that wrangled in, it get quite messy. So especially as you scale to a larger team. As a small team, you may have a big understanding already, but this is just some best practice to keep in mind as you scale up. And then so for the admins, you need to be able to properly manage each API and set up those permissions. And then second of all is also organizing all aspects of the API into a single source of truth, again, with the API Builder. So these are just some things to keep in mind as I go through this presentation. And we dive into a little bit of Postman, what it can do to organize your APIs, manage those permissions, and then really bring everything together with the API Builder. So, so first thought is taking ownership of your API program. I'm going to talk about three things: just general best practices in Postman. So there's a few things to keep in mind when developing and maintaining your API in Postman. The roles and permissions. I'm actually going to briefly show you in Postman what that means. You may have seen this in previous sessions. I know my colleague Harsha, in the API Admin 101, he really goes over this, but I'm going to talk about the more of the conceptual, like once you set up, who do you set up these roles and permissions for? Just to give you some examples. And then the next step is actually utilizing the forking and merging feature in Postman. This is the final piece that allows anyone, once you have those roles set up, anyone can actually collaborate and contribute, even if they don't have the necessary permissions. So that's one way to make sure you ensure collaboration amongst the whole team. So some best practices. This one's gonna be pretty brief. When working with any team, having too many chefs in the kitchen can really become an issue, right? If everyone's overriding each other. Initially on a small team, it may be easy to manage, but as you scale your team, you want to be more thoughtful about who can actually make changes to your collections and the different Postman resources that you have, so that it doesn't become too messy. Generally, you'll want like a team lead or a software architect to have ownership level, or like the edit access. And I'll go over these in detail of the environments, the API, and the main collections. So just make sure you guys only a few select owners, and then think about who actually owns the API lifecycle at your company. So those are things you're gonna think about, and then everyone else would just be regular collaborators. So I'm going to jump into, let me see. Oh, wait a second. I need a shortcut. So I have Postman on the web open, nice and handy. It's really easy. So I'm going to show that really quick. Just a really quick demo of where you would actually edit these permissions. So we have permissions at the workspace level, API level, collection level, and environments. So really understanding these permissions, that's the very first step, having clear understanding what these mean. Really, each one is you have an editor access or an admin role, and that just really means you have edit access. And then whereas the other role is just a collaborator role, means you have a quote unquote view access. So for workspaces, you can notice this one that I'm in. I can click on workspaces, click on this sample workspace I'm already in, click edit. You'll be taken over to an overview. And you guys probably have seen this, but I just want to make sure you know exactly where to go. You see all the different members, and you can make sure you can add someone as a collaborator or admin. And then same thing for collections. If I click on the collections tab, I have a collection here. I can click on the three dots and click manage roles. And you'll see that I have a way to make someone an editor or a viewer, right? So generally at the collection level, let me just go back there. Where is it? Manage roles. At the collection level, generally someone who is an admin, so I'm gonna go over some examples right now. Is someone's admin is maybe a developer who's maintaining or updating the API, or someone who's a team lead, they have access to approve any changes to that collection. Generally, those are going to be the ones you want to be an editor workspace, and then everyone else will be a viewer. And I'll talk about how this kind of plays nice. Like, what if I'm a viewer and I want to make changes? We'll talk about. I'll show you briefly how forking and merging, where that you find that in Postman, but that's going to be the workaround to actually collaborate, even if you don't have edit access, which is really nice. It really makes you be thoughtful about any changes that you push out, especially as you scale up your team. And then very similarly for APIs, you also have managed roles here. You also have editor and viewer access. These are going to be people who can actually view and access the API Builder, which I'll be talking about in a bit. And then same thing for all your environments. You can also manage the roles here. The reason you have editor and view access here is as an editor, you don't want anyone, like for example, let's say your environments includes API keys. You don't want anyone to accidentally put in their API key into an environment. So you want to be thoughtful who can actually edit those initial values in the environment. Cool. So let me see. So those are just some general guidelines, and there are exceptions to each of them. There might be a developer who is maybe very ingrained in the documentation process, but doesn't need to manage other collections. Maybe they'll have actual edit access just because they're so ingrained in that process. So those are just some things to think about when it comes to roles and permissions. I briefly showed you where you can locate them, and then some examples who exactly would have each kind of role. And then the next thing I wanted to show was forking and merging. So at the collection level, I'm a viewer, and let's say I wanted to make a change, but I don't have the right necessarily the right permissions. For all collections, anyone who's part of the team, they can actually go in and create a fork. So this is how you would create a fork. I'm kind of time limited, so I'm not going to go through that whole process, but it's really easy. It's just create a fork. If I just do that, Postman Galaxy fork, I can fork into this workspace, or if I have another team workspace I'm working on with another team, I can fork it into there. Click fork. And you'll see an exact copy of that, and I can actually make changes. So if I didn't have edit access, I couldn't save and make changes before, but now I can make changes to this. And when I do finish making a change, let's say I added a new test, or for a specific endpoint, I added a parameter, new parameter. Oh, that's not, should be like that. Once I save it, I can actually just create a pull request, and that will let the editors of this collection know, hey, I made a change. They can review it. In this case, you'll see that only editors of this collection can view it. So in this case, as the editor of this collection, I'm the only one who can review it. So those are things, that's another tool in case you weren't aware of it before. I know sometimes when I talk to a lot of my customers, one of the things I really hammer home to make sure you're taking advantage of this feature. And going back to my talk, while it might seem like a lot of upkeep for now, it may not be something you can do if your team is small. But when your API becomes the next, I don't know, let's say like next big, like maybe Stripe API, you'll want to have these best practices in mind to better scale and collaborate. So just a really quick summary, I have a nice table to really break down those roles and permissions, because I know it can sometimes be hard to really understand it and break it down. So I try to break it down as simple as possible to know that these are the different permissions you can set in Postman. It's especially important for admins so that when you're managing it. So at the team level, you have Postman admins, SSO admins. At the team level, those people are just going to be inviting users. And then people who have view access to the team, right? View access means that they can go in and create collections and environments. Those are going to be your team leads. Collaborators, I put that just to make it a little bit cleaner, but it's just anyone else in the company, right? It could be someone maybe from the solutions engineering team, or any customer-facing roles where they need to demo the API and they need to get access to it. It could be product managers, execs, or any other developers from another team. So you can see that this table really goes through and breaks that down. You'll see it kind of tends to be very similar across the board, but they are just all independent of each other. So I want to make sure that you're aware of that. Cool. So now that we've gone through and talked about really hammered home roles and permissions, gave some examples of that. The next thing is to have a single source of truth for your API program, so that everyone knows exactly where to go to find out the most up-to-date information on whatever they're working with, whatever part of the API they're working with. And it really starts with the API spec. Generally, it's an open API spec, but there are also a few other formats. But this is going to be the backbone of documenting and organizing your API It really is really how you're going to build out and map out your API. And then the next thing is actually using the API builder to organize all the API elements in one place. So that may be your tests, your documentation, any monitors that you have, and any environments. And then the last thing is take advantage of the versioning. If you're updating your API and you have different versions, managing those versions in one place is also very critical. But versioning may or may not be something you use. A lot of teams do have multiple versions of the API they have to maintain. So just having that feature is pretty nice. So let me jump back into Postman to show you really where that is. So in the Postman app over here that I have, if you could just click on APIs, you'll see that I already have an API created. I don't have as much time to go into every single thing, every single component in detail, but this is where you'll find that we have a lot of great resources on it, and a lot of training on it. So feel free to reach out to me afterwards if you want me to go more in depth on it. But I just want to show you where this is, because a lot of times I've talked to customers and they didn't even know this feature existed. And every time I show it to them, they're like, wow, this is great. It's really keeps everything in sync. So click on customers. This is where the API builder is going to live. You'll see I have an overview of it. And then if I click on the define tab, you'll see this is the spec that I have imported. This is just imported from the import button on the top left over here. We generally accept a lot of the most common API specs formats that you have, but the most popular one is Open API. And then you'll notice there's 3 other tabs where you have develop, which is where you house your documentation, environments, test, where you hold any tests that you have, integration tests, and then observe is just for any monitors that you have set up. So you can see this kind of gives you a big overview of everything that's going on. By keeping everything in sync in the API builder, you can get an idea of what exactly is going on with this API, right? And we also have one last thing is even the reports button on the top right. You can click that, and you should be able to see some reporting on the API itself. So having this single source of truth, which contains your most up-to-date API and all associated collections, just makes it easier for the team. So I'm gonna go back to my slides right here. Cool. So now that I've had a chance to really talk about the different features, right? The roles and permissions after you invite your team, setting that up, organizing your workspaces, and then actually how to wrangle in everything with the API builder. I want to present, and this is where the main thing I want to present is 2 different scenarios of how you would use this entire flow, right? So we have company A, their product is supported with an API. So the API isn't like the main product, it just supports the product. How they may organize their workspaces is they're organizing it by teams. So maybe the API team has a workspace, and then they manage the API, and then you have a solutions engineer team or a QA team, and then for me, we have a customer success team, right? However nice you want to build it, it's going to be different for each company, but just a generic company like that, it might make sense for them organized by team, right? And then so what the API team does is they manage a specification, and how they would use it is they share these specific collections to other team workspaces. So they'll share it to the solutions engineering team or the QA team, and they'll be able to know exactly what they're getting, and they have the most up-to-date one. And then they use the API builder to automatically update those collections for all the teams within their workspace. And then the solutions engineering team, let's say they need to test out some API integrations that they need to use for a customer or demo to a customer, for example. They can view the current integration test collections that's shared from the API team, and then they can use the forking and merging feature of that collection and add more tests if they need to add specific tests or there's something specific they're trying to do. You can see how this all ties in together, right? The forking and merging. You're using all those features to really ensure that seamless collaboration. And then the QA team, let's say they need to test out a few production changes to the API. They can view the current test suites and from the collection that the API team above has shared with them, and they can also update those tests using the same forking and merging feature. So you can see how having that API builder and then using that forking and merging, and then they using their specific roles and permission, how they organize their teams, it really ensures a seamless collaboration for company A. And then for company B, it may be completely different, but we still have the features in Postman to do that. So the API, let's say for company B, the API is a product. Workspaces are organized by API resources, so they have a lot of endpoints, right? This is the product. And then let's say the software architect wants to report on all the current endpoints that the company has, how they're performing, or the health of it. They can view the report from the API builder. It's all in one location. And then let's say the support team is getting a lot of reports all of a sudden of an endpoint not working. They can just go to that specific workspace that has that containing that endpoint and containing a test associated with it. Straight from the API builder, they can go in there and they can know, okay, hey, this is the collection that contains all the tests for this. Let's just go in there, verify if this is actually happening or if it's a one-off with the customer. So you can see how it's really cross-functionally different teams, all flows in through the API builder. And then lastly, let's say they obviously, if the API is a product, there's probably going to be a big documentation team that really handles that and make sure the docs look really good. And let's say they want to make an update, they can go to the documentation collection from the API builder, quickly make any changes, and then push it out there. And everyone else, all the teams seamlessly will be able to see that updated documentation. So these are just two scenarios on how all those features tie in together. So Postman provides great features to manage your team and help them collaborate, as well as maintain a seamless API experience for your organization, using the API builder, using the forking and merging feature, setting up and organizing it through your roles and permissions in your workspaces. And while it is flexible, you have a myriad of options. So just be thoughtful in the execution and regulate it in before it becomes an impossible task. Cool. So I will leave you guys with a couple of great resources. Our Learning Center has a lot of great resources. Our support center is really great. Our support team is awesome. They respond so quick. I'm like really appreciative of them. They really help out whenever a lot of our customers, if anything comes up, they're quick to respond. They're great resources to have. So you guys can definitely take advantage of that too. Yeah, and thank you guys for your time. I'm gonna leave, I think I have 6 more minutes. I'm just gonna leave it for any questions that come up in the chat. So feel free to just post in the chat if there is anything, and I can maybe answer any questions or clarify anything. But yeah, thanks everyone.
Awesome, thank you for that.
Yeah,
super great.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's see. Looks like there's nothing so far in chat. But yeah, Andrew, I don't know. I don't know, we can also end early if there's no questions. Maybe I just gave such a great presentation that everyone
you
got
did
it right away. It's awesome.
Yeah, we do have a few moments. So if anyone does have any questions that we could be able to answer, feel free to ask.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I want to remind folks to stop at all the expo booths if you can. I keep hawking the photo booth, but it's a lot of fun if you feel like doing it. Yeah, any other things that you want to point out to folks about the conference?
I don't have anything else. I think we have a lot of great sessions, so just make sure to pick the ones that really speak to you, right? If you're an admin, check out the admin sessions. If you're a developer, it's really great that we have that segment, and also there's a business track. And I know a lot of my colleagues have put in a lot of work. So
awesome, great points.
Yeah, it's great to hear. Like, look in the comments. Yeah. I'm glad I was able to. Yeah, Tim. Sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, but yeah, I'm glad this content was helpful. Yeah, it seems like you're a very small team, so it's good to keep this in mind, and hopefully your team grows into like Strike API or Twilio.
Totally.
Good luck. Good luck. Awesome.
All right.
Yeah.
Shall we end it?
Yep. I think we ended. I don't think seeing any questions, but yeah, thanks everyone again. And feel free to reach out to me. I don't know if we have contact information after this, but feel free to reach out and we can definitely talk. Listen.
Awesome. Thanks so
It's a
much.
pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your conference.
Yeah, enjoy the conference, everyone. Bye.
Bye.